I'm Becky. And Jim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning we stand on sacred and historical ground. If these stones and the names on the plaques on these stones could talk, imagine what a history lesson we could get. Unfortunately, none of the names on these stones walk upon the earth any longer. They have all passed on. But today, I'd like to think of this day as the first Thanksgiving in the month of November. 2 weeks from now, we'll celebrate Thanksgiving in the form of a dinner with our families and friends. But the fact that we can celebrate Thanksgiving, we owe a debt of gratitude to all of those veterans that have served the country in the United States of America so valiantly that we are allowed to have Thanksgiving with our family and friends. It is on this day that we come to realize that veterans are people who at one point in their lives wrote a blank check payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their lives. Today we thank them and honor them for their service. Let us remain standing with the playing of our national anthem.
Squad, attention!
Those of you that have chairs, please be seated. Oh no, I'm sorry. We have one more. We have one more activity. Sorry. This cast of characters off to my left is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Is it on?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy Veterans Day.
Obviously, someone likes to hog the microphone. All right. I would like to say, as I talk about Thanksgiving, all of these pledges here are going to be at my Thanksgiving dinner table, of which I'm very proud. So thanks, kids. You're dismissed. "10 years ago at this time, the Groton Garden Club provided us with a Blue Star Memorial at the back corner of the Common. Please be seated. You may come. Any veteran who would like to be seated, please come forward and sit in the white chairs. So 10 years ago, as I said, the Blue Star Memorial was placed at the rear corner of the old burying ground. 9 years ago, we had a Gold Star Memorial placed there. And I think Blue Star recognizes all of those families that have a service member serving their country in the time of conflict. A Blue Star family never wants to become a Gold Star family. Unfortunately, it does happen. I have a commentary here that I'd like to read to you to understand the rigors of war and what it means to serve your country and what can happen when you do serve your country. My friend Kevin and I are volunteers at a national cemetery in Oklahoma and put in a few days a month in a slightly larger uniform. Today had been a long day, and I just wanted to get the day over with and go down to Smokies and have a cold one. Sneaking a look at my watch, I saw the time, 16:55, 5 minutes to go before the cemetery gates are closed for the day. Full dress was hot in the August sun. Oklahoma summertime was as bad as ever. The heat and the humidity were the same, both too high. I saw the car pull into the drive, 1969 or 70 model Cadillac DeVille, looked factory new. It pulled into the parking lot at a snail's pace. An old woman got out so slowly that I thought she was paralyzed. She had a cane and a sheaf of flowers, about 4 or 5 bunches as near as I could tell. I couldn't help myself. The thought came unwanted and left a slightly bitter taste. She's going to spend an hour here. And for this old soldier, my hip hurts. I'm ready to get out of here right now. But for this day, my duty was to assist anyone that came in. Kevin would lock the in gate, and if I could hurry the old woman along, we might make it to Smokies on time. I broke post attention. My hip made gritty noises when I took the first step, and the pain went up a notch. I must have made a real military sight. Middle-aged man with a small gut and half a limp in full Marine dress uniform, which had lost its razor crease about 30 minutes after I began the watch at the cemetery. I stopped in front of her halfway up the walk. She looked up at me with an old woman's squint. "Ma'am, may I assist you in any way?" She took long enough to answer. "Yes, son. Can you carry these flowers? I seem to be moving a tad slow today." "My pleasure, ma'am." Not much of a lie. She looked again. "Marine, where were you stationed?" "Vietnam, ma'am. Ground pounder, 69 to 71. She looked at me closer. "Wounded in action, I see. Well done, Marine. I'll be as quick as I can." I lied a little bigger lie. "No hurry, ma'am." She smiled and winked at me and said, "Son, I'm 85 years old and I can tell a lie from a long way off. Let's get this done. Might be the last time I can do this. My name's Joanne Weiserman, and of a few Marines I'd like to see one more time." "Yes, ma'am, at your service." She headed for the World War I section, stopping at a stone. She picked one of the flower bunches out of my arm and laid it on top of the stone. She murmured something I couldn't quite make out. The name on the marble was Donald S. Davidson, USMC, France, 1918. She turned away and made a straight line for the World War II section. Stopping at one stone, I saw a tear slowly tracking its way down her cheek. She put a bunch on a stone. The name was Stephen X. Davidson, USMC, 1943. She went up the rollways and laid another on a stone whose name was Stanley J. Weiserman, USMC, 1944. She paused for a second, and more tears flowed. "2 more, son, and we'll be done." I almost didn't say anything, but "Yes, ma'am, take your time." She looked confused. "Where's the Vietnam section, son? I seem to have lost my way." I pointed with my chin. "That way, ma'am." "Oh," she said quietly. Old age and me just don't seem to get along these days. She headed down the walk I'd pointed to, and she stopped a couple of stones before she found the one she wanted. She placed a bunch on Larry Wiseman, USMC 1968, and the last on Darrell Wiseman, USMC 1970. She stood there and murmured a few words. I still couldn't make them out, and more tears flowed. "Okay, son, I'm finished. Can you get me back to my car, and both you and I can go home?" "Yes, ma'am. If I may ask, were those your kinfolk?" She paused. "Yes. Donald Davidson was my father, Stephen was my uncle, Stanley was my husband, Larry and Darrell were our sons, all killed in action, all Marines." She stopped there. Whether she had finished or couldn't finish, I don't know. She made her way slowly to her car, slowly and painfully. I waited for a polite distance to come between us, and then I double-timed it over to Kevin, who was waiting by his car. "Quick, get to the out gate. I've got something we've got to do." Kevin started to say something, but saw the look I gave him. He broke the rules to get us down the service road ASAP. We beat her. She hadn't made it around the rotunda yet. "Kevin," I said, "stand at attention next to the gate post and follow my lead." I humped it across the drive to the other post. When the Cadillac came puttering around from the hedges and began the short, straight traverse to the gate, I called in my best gunny voice, "To hand, hut! Present, harms!" I have to hand it to Kevin. He never blinked an eye, full dress attention for a salute that would make his DI proud. She drove through the gate with two worn-out old soldiers giving her a send-off she deserved, for service rendered for her country, and for knowing duty, honor, and sacrifice far beyond the realm of most. I'm not sure, but I think I saw her return a salute. I'd like to call Post Commander Gary Snew to come forward and read the honor roll.
Miriam Chessman McKenna. Donald Allen Dent, Navy. Pedro W. Perez Sanchez, Army. George S. Sainer, Navy. Clifford Edward Buxton, Air Force. Donald E. DeLorme, Air Force. Robert Carroll Johnson, Air Force. John Davison Malcolm, Jr., Air Force. Thomas C. Boyden, Coast Guard. John Lawrence Sabal, Army. Lawrence Raymond Deal, Navy. Charles F. Taylor, Air Force. Wayne Smith Porter, Army Air Forces. Excuse me. Robert B. Gallupu, Army. Herbert Arthur Hadley, Navy. Joseph Charles Roach, Jr., Navy. Robert L. Pinkham, Marine Corps. Peter Jeffrey Stefan, Army. Jack Edward Moore, Army. Robert Cutler Burr, Army. Gregory Kavanaugh, Air Force. Frank Shishimi, Army Air Corps.
Thank you. Veterans, please be seated for a moment. There's one veteran who is not with us this year. He's been to innumerable number of parades in the last, Memorial Day parades in the last number of years, and he never missed a Veterans Day ceremony. Frank Shimimi passed away earlier this year, but he is remembered by all of us on this day. Give you a little background on Frank. Frank was in the Army Air Corps and flew the hump, which was from India to Burma, on a regular basis. He flew in a DC-3. He was an aircraft and power plant mechanic, so he would fly parts into Burma so he could repair the airplanes. DC-3's service ceiling was about 20,000 feet. Mount Everest is 28,000 feet, so every day Frank would fly into Burma, he would have Mount Everest towering 8,000 feet above him. But worse than that, the outside temperature at 20,000 feet is probably 10 or 12 below zero. He's on oxygen. The inside temperature in an unpressurized cabin, which is what he flew in, was about 10 below zero. So it was a comfortable 6-hour ride, no matter which way he went. On this day, we'd like to dedicate this ceremony to Frank. And as we retire the flag today, I'd ask his daughter Priscilla to come forward and help with the flag retirement. Priscilla and Kathy. I'd just like to say that we retire the flag every year on Veterans Day. This flag has flown over the town and over this common and protected us for the last 365 days in all kinds of weather, in all kinds of conditions. This flag will now be retired. Chief Luth, will now present the flag to Louise Shimami. Thank you. Veterans, please be seated. It's my privilege at this time to present the Honorable Sheila Harrington, State Representative to our district. Sheila.
Everyone's taller than I am, I guess. So some of you may be familiar with these lyrics from the song The Impossible Dream. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, and to run where the brave dare not go. Today my speech is going to be a little different. As the ceremony here was dedicated to Mr. Shimami, I'd like to dedicate my speech this day to Gregory Andrew Kavanaugh, a local veteran who we have seen at these ceremonies without failure for as long as I remember. Greg grew up in Groton and all over the world because his father was in the Air Force. But he graduated from Groton Dunstable High School in 1991. He was a tremendous athlete, playing 3 varsity sports and serving as the co-captain of the Groton Dunstable basketball team. But that's not what makes Greg so memorable to most of us. Greg was a veteran who very proudly served this nation. Some of you who will have known Greg over the years will remember him for other things, for his energy, his enormous smile, his unmistakable laugh, his optimism, his kindness, his generosity, and his constant readiness to help others. I recently spoke to his twin brother Mark, who told me about an incident when Greg was younger. Greg was able to rescue a cat that was stuck up in a tree. And he said he was so proud of doing that because he thought it was a quote-unquote firefighter thing to do. He admired firefighters and he admired all those who chose professions or careers where they would help others. Greg certainly had a history of helping others. I will always remember the calls I would get from him over the years to let me know someone needed my help. Or one common statement coming from his mouth, and any of you who knew him will know this, the words, "Can I lend you a hand?" He cared so deeply for his family, his friends, and members of this community. Oh, and by the way, just about anybody Greg met became a friend of Greg's. In the year 2000, Greg felt compelled to serve his country as the 3rd generation of Kavanaughs in the United States military. He enlisted in the United States Air Force that year, and he became a flight line firefighter, graduating 2nd in his class, and eventually he earned the rank of Senior Airman E4, which he accomplished below the zone. Greg served several tours in the War on Terror in the Middle East, including Operation Enduring Freedom, where his unit saw combat action. Although Greg came home without the physical appearance of any injury, like so many others that served in the global War on Terror or ever served this nation in combat, he did come home with those invisible wounds of war. However, that never affected the way he presented himself to all those who knew him. He always presented as someone who cared more for others than he cared for himself. There wasn't a selfish bone in Greg's body. This characteristic defined him, as it does so many veterans. He was always caring for others, serving others, asking ways he could help others. It was as if he viewed his mission here on earth to be one of service, compassion, and kindness. He never seemed to feel that he, himself, deserved any gratitude for what he did or for who he was. He never seemed to put his own needs before others. This, too, seems to be a very common attribute among veterans. Many years ago, a college professor I had said, "To serve is to love. It's just that simple." And it's just that true. Our veterans, like Greg Kavanaugh, served their country proudly. They served because it was a way of protecting their country and protecting all those whom they loved back at home. They answered to a higher and a noble calling. Sadly, I don't feel that we say thank you enough, and then the opportunity passes. Greg, like so many other combat veterans, fought that unbeatable foe of the invisible wounds of war. Greg, like so many other combat veterans, had to bear with unbearable sorrow when a comrade paid the ultimate price. Greg, like so many of our veterans, would run where the brave dare not go. Their quest was to protect, defend, and help others in need. This calling was certainly right up Greg's alley. Gregory Andrew Kavanaugh passed away at Mass General Hospital on October 6th, 2020, after suffering a fatal heart attack at the age of 48. I'd like to close with a few other lyrics from the song I started with. And I know, if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. You were true to your quest, Greg. We pray that you rest in peace, and we thank you and all our veterans and all of you who came out to honor them today. Thank you.
Let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. Stand beside her and
see this very gratifying crowd here today, and I know you'd love to blow off a little steam to show your thanks and appreciation to our veterans. Some of us belong to a Friday night group that show appreciation to veterans all the time, and I'd like to bring forward that cheer that we use so often. You've all heard it before, you'll catch on very quickly, and let's offer it up to our veterans on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hip hip! Hooray! Louder. Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Nicely done, thank you. I'd like to ask the Sawyer family, all the representatives of the Sawyer family, to come forward and meet me up here at the microphone, please. Don't be bashful. No running. Play it safe. Is everybody? If you walk in and amongst these stones, you're going to see the name Sawyer mentioned on numerous occasions. As I said earlier, I think there's about 1,146 names on these stones in here, and the name Sawyer is quite prominent. We stand in front of the Frank Sawyer Memorial. Frank Sawyer was killed in Guam in 1944 as a U.S. Marine Corps corporal. He has been honored by dedicating this common to him a number of years ago. But as we turn around and we look in the 366-year history of the town of Groton, we have one street that has never had a name. We did research, we checked the history, we checked the assessor's records. That little crossroad that stands behind you, or lays behind you, has never been named. And we're going to change that today. But first, I'd like to read to you exactly what the Sawyer family has done in representation of this community. The Sawyer family has been part of the Groton community for well over 100 years. In fact, I was corrected this morning, it's more like 150 years. Their contributions to our town and country are as follows. John Sawyer grew up in Groton and served his country in World War I. Elmer and Ruth Sawyer were Blue Star parents and unfortunately became Gold Star parents. Raymond Sawyer served in World War II in the U.S. Army. Frank Sawyer, as I just said, served in World War II as a U.S. Marine and was killed in Guam. Alvin Sawyer served his country during World War II, but was also one of the founders of Little League here in Groton. Travel teams, taught sportsmanship, and taught us how to get along with others, especially on the playing field. Richard Sawyer served in the U.S. Air Force. William Sawyer served lifetime member of the U.S. Navy. Ronald Sawyer served in the U.S. Air Force. Roland Sawyer honorably served the town of Groton government as a selectman, an assessor, and every other committee that you could possibly name. But I'm going to bring up a couple of other names. Helen Wilson McCarthy Sawyer, who was a teacher, probably taught most of us to read, or read well, hopefully, was an author. She married Roland Sawyer and lived to the ripe old age of 110. She had a brother named Byron Wilson. Byron Wilson has a memorial named after him down at Prescott Memorial Common. He was killed as part of the Naval Air Squadron in World War II. As I said earlier, the street behind us has gone unnamed for 366 years, And today we name and dedicate it to the Sawyer family by naming it Sawyers Way, plural, everybody. We'll have the unveiling in just a few minutes because we're going to have to walk all the way over there in order to do that. But before that, I would like to call Jason and Keith and Ron. I'd like you. We're gonna raise the flag to fly over this common for the next 365 days. And Ron, I'd like you to help do that. No? Richard, you want to do that? Okay, please. Stand right here.
Majesty,
'Twas not a gun, nor a cannon, nor a bomb that saved us. 'Twas not a whisper, nor a rumor, nor a roar that we heard. 'Twas heroes like you, with hearts like yours, with bravery that mends and brings peace to us all. May this flag fly in peace. Amen. I think it's time we make a little noise. I'd like to, any of you that have sensitive ears, you may want to cover them up. So I'd ask, Richard, would you come forward and would you be willing to fire the cannon in the first salvo? It's right over there. You don't have to pull very hard on this, just have a taut string. Okay, hold on a second, okay? We'll give a 1, 2, 3 count so people can protect themselves, all right? And Richard, you are firing for all members of the armed forces currently serving. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, dogs always love this. Dennis Kavanaugh, would you come forward? Dennis is going to fire in remembrance of all veterans everywhere. 1, 2, 3. And last but not least, we have with us today 99-year-old Peter Macy, who served in the U.S. Army Air Corps. And Peter, would you come forward with my brother as your escort and fire the final salvo in recognition of all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice? Have him, Rob, have him pull his face out. Back up. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Nicely done, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, this pretty much concludes the formal ceremony here at the Veterans Memorial Common today. We do have a young lady circulating throughout, handing out stars from the flags that we have retired here within the town. We also have some smaller flags, some service flags that she has, and please feel free to take one as a memento of what our veterans have done for us and the fact that you were here today. And we hope, we were glad to see you all. Thank you for coming out. We are going to repair over to the corner of the street over here, and we're going to have the sign unveiling for Sawyers Way. This concludes the formal ceremony. Thank you for coming. Veterans, thank you for all that you do for us.
I missed your unveiling, but I'll get the photo op here.
Come on, all Sawyers! Go! Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. It's already up. Woohoo!
It's because they let you as a teacher.